Hello, and thank you for joining me for an introduction to fertility awareness. I hope to give you some context for what fertility awareness is and how it might best support you. So in this presentation, we'll cover what is fertility awareness, the history of fertility awareness-based methods. We'll go into some fertility biomarkers and secondary fertility indicators. So first of all, what is fertility awareness? So the fertility awareness method, FAM, is a natural approach to understanding and tracking a woman's menstrual cycle to identify fertile and infertile days. By monitoring key fertility signs such as basal body temperature, cervical mucus, and other menstrual cycle patterns, women can determine when they are ovulating. FAM is commonly used for both pregnancy prevention and conception planning. So this method, or this group of methods that is FAM, involves daily tracking and requires commitment to be effective. When followed correctly, FAM can be a reliable tool for family planning without the use of hormonal birth control or medical interventions. The fertility awareness method has roots in the observation and study of human fertility, which dates back centuries, but its formal development as a natural family planning method is relatively recent. So while I'm referring to the fertility awareness method, know that there are different methods within that method, different biomarkers, and we're going to go into that a little bit. So early observations in the history of fertility awareness, to give you some context for what it is that we're learning and where this information comes from. So in ancient times, many early civilizations observed the connection between the menstrual cycle and fertility. Ancient Greek, Egyptian, and Chinese texts noted certain times during the cycle were more favorable for conception, although the knowledge was often rudimentary. In the 19th century, in the late 1800s, scientists began to study the biological signs of fertility and observed that ovulation occurs about midway through the menstrual cycle, providing the groundwork for understanding fertility timing. In the history of fertility awareness, one of the first big methods to come around was the rhythm method. So in the 1930s, the rhythm method, one of the earliest forms of fertility awareness, or FAM, emerged as a calendar-based system. Pioneered by gynecologists like Dr. Kiyosaki Ugino and Dr. Hermann Knaus, it involved calculating fertile days based on the average length of a woman's menstrual cycle. However, it was limited in accuracy as it didn't account for variations in cycle length or other biological signs. Early rhythm method thinking was everyone ovulates on day 14, so you're probably fertile from day 10 to 16. But what we know is that the menstrual cycle is dynamic. It shifts and changes. Sorry, I didn't want to be fuzzy. So once people started to realize that the rhythm method did not attune to the dynamic nature of the cycle, we started to look into biomarkers. So in the 1950s, Dr. John Billings, an Australian physician, discovered the connection between changes in cervical mucus and ovulation. His research led to the development of the Billings ovulation method, which focused on cervical mucus observation as a key indicator of fertility. Around the same time, the discovery of the BBT, basal body temperature rise after ovulation, was noted by several different scientists. Women could track their BBT daily to identify when ovulation had occurred, marking the shift from fertile to infertile days. In the 1970s, the development of modern fertility awareness methods began to integrate multiple fertility signs, such as cervical mucus, BBT, and changes to the cervix itself. This era also saw an increased formalization of the symptothermal method, which combined all of these observations to enhance accuracy. Fertility awareness gained more recognition as we moved into the 80s and 90s, especially among those looking for natural alternatives to hormonal birth control. Organizations like the Couple to Couple League and the Natural Family Planning International began teaching and promoting these methods. What should be noted, or that's interesting to me, and that if you dig into it a little bit more, you'll see pretty clearly, is that the Couple to Couple League and the Natural Family Planning International are both Catholic organizations. So a lot of the research done on fertility awareness methods was actually funded by the Catholic Church. So I'm glad that we have studies for this. And then there was a growing need for a secular option, one that was not associated with religion and allowed for more spaciousness and reproductive planning and freedom. And so that really started to show up later on and in present day. And that is a huge reason why I chose to study the Justice method, which is secular and crafted by Geraldine Mathis. So present day fertility awareness. With advances in technology, fertility awareness has become more accessible and accurate. Apps, digital devices, and various charting methods now help women track fertility signs more efficiently. The method has evolved into a widely respected option for natural family planning, combining the historical foundations of ovulation tracking with modern tools and education. So I hope this gave you a little insight into FAM over the years as it has developed. This was just an overview. If you're interested in learning more, there's definitely more to dive into. But I think this catches us up to modern day. So today, when we work with a symptothermal method of fertility awareness, we have certain primary fertility biomarkers, including cervical mucus, basal body temperature, cervical position, and then LH strips or ovulation predictor kits. So in the Justice method, we don't use LH strips or ovulation predictor kits, but they are there, and we will go over what they are and when they might make sense to use them. We're also going to talk about secondary fertility indicators, such as vulvovaginal sensation, Mittelschmerz, and changes in mood, libido, and hunger. So cervical mucus is a fascinating and dynamic fluid produced by the cervix throughout your menstrual cycle. Scientifically, this mucus plays a crucial role in fertility by creating an optimal environment for sperm to travel through the cervix and reach the egg. Its consistency and quantity change in response to your hormonal shifts, providing valuable clues about your fertility status. So this mucus, you can find it by just wiping across the vulva with a flat piece of toilet paper and seeing if there's anything that you can get between your fingers. You're not going to see cervical mucus every day. We're looking for those shifts, changes, and so on. Basal body temperature is your lowest body temperature. So it's your temperature at rest, measured first thing in the morning. It's a key indicator of your hormonal shifts, specifically progesterone, rising slightly after ovulation due to increased progesterone. Tracking these subtle changes confirms when you've ovulated and helps map your fertile window. Cervical position shifts throughout the cycle under the influence of the hormone relaxin, which does to your body, your muscles, what it sounds like. It relaxes them. This is a hormone that is very present in pregnancy, but we also get a little hit of it around ovulation, which encourages the cervix to soften, to open. And then depending on your pelvic anatomy, it'll either shift higher up or lower down. It'll either be higher and harder to reach or lower and easier to reach. And then LH strips and ovulation predictor kits. So these are tools that are used to detect the levels of LH or luteinizing hormone in your urine. This is a hormone that increases significantly just before ovulation. And by measuring the concentration of LH, these strips can help identify the timing of this hormonal surge, which indicates that ovulation is approaching. They're also sometimes called ovulation predictor kits. Normally, you will pee into a cup first thing in the morning. You'll take the little strip, you'll dip it in, and then you'll read it, seeing if lines show up. Of these primary fertility indicators, cervical mucus, BBT, cervical position, and LH strips, it is ideal to have two that you are relying on. You do not need to do all four. And so I often don't encourage people to use LH strips because it's a reoccurring cost. They can be a little difficult to read sometimes. And I don't find them super helpful for those who are trying to avoid pregnancy. That being said, if you are tracking and you're only able to track cervical mucus, but not BBT and not cervical position, then maybe we would add in LH strips just to give us some more data. Or if you're able to do BBT, but not cervical mucus or cervical position, then maybe we would add in the LH strips. So just noting that it's important to have two of these biomarkers to help increase efficacy and double confirm what you're seeing in ad context. So these can be a helpful tool. They're just not one that I lean upon primarily. So those were our primary fertility biomarkers of cervical mucus, basal body temperature, cervical position, and LH strips. We have secondary fertility indicators as well, and there are several that go beyond this list, but I'm just giving you a brief introduction to certain things that we look for. So these secondary fertility indicators help us to confirm what we're seeing in the primary indicators, as well as to increase your awareness of your body literacy, and your overall cycle awareness and attunedness. The first one is vulvovaginal sensation, which refers to a general sensation of moistness or wetness in the vagina or on the vulva. To observe your vulvovaginal sensation, you need to tune into how your vagina and vulva feel as you go about your day. Some days you might just feel a little saucier than others, and that's what we're looking for. Mittelschmerz. So this is a German word, but it can also be referred to as ovulation pain or ovulation sensation. It is a subtle one-sided pain, so you'll either feel it on one side of your body normally in the low belly that shows up when your body releases an egg, usually about halfway through your cycle. So some might feel a gentle twinge or cramp, while others may notice a fleeting pulse of energy. Mittelschmerz should not be painful. That doesn't mean that it never is. If you are someone who is experiencing pain with mid-cycle, with ovulation, reach out to me, let's chat. But for the vast majority of people who do feel Mittelschmerz, not everyone does. It's just subtle, like, that's happening. And I would say in my work with women, about half of women feel this sensation. Then we have changes in mood, libido, and hunger. So your body is sending you subtle clues throughout the cycle about your hormones and about what's going on internally. By tracking your sensations, you may notice that some intensify at certain phases of your cycle. So oftentimes with the rising estrogen and testosterone around ovulation, a lot of women will feel a shift and increase in mood and libido around ovulation. Some people notice shifts later in the cycle, earlier in the cycle. Learning what happens throughout your cycle, what's specific to you, is a helpful secondary fertility indicator. Fertility awareness is a time-tested approach rooted in the understanding of the body's natural rhythms and signals. From its historical use in ancient cultures to its modern application, this method has empowered individuals to track and interpret their fertility with precision. It is only getting better and better and better, more accurate, more precise, more useful. By focusing on key biomarkers such as cervical mucus, basal body temperature, and cervical position and LH levels, fertility awareness provides a comprehensive view of reproductive health. Embracing these tools and insights allows for informed decisions and a deeper connection to one's own body, paving the way for effective fertility management and holistic well-being. Thank you so much for joining me for this presentation, this introduction to fertility awareness, the historical context, and then a little bit about what are we actually looking at. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to connect with you, and have a lovely rest of your day.